All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to get started. I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy day to enjoy us for another installment of the Explore This series. I am Chad Myler. I am the Health Promotion Manager for Life and Work Connections. Today, my guest is Dr. Lise Alschuler. She is the Assistant Director for Fellowship in Integrative Medicine and a Professor of Clinical Medicine out of the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. Dr. Alschuler, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Again, for those who are maybe new to this series, Explore This is a series where I will sit down with University of Arizona subject matter experts to discuss tips, ideas, anything that's really related to the many dimensions of your well-being. Today, we're going to be talking about strengthening your immunity with integrative strategies. So, Dr. Alschuler, we talked a few weeks ago as we were kind of prepping and deciding what to really talk about this. And there's so much we can talk about, but I guess I'm just going to dive into it. You know, in these times of uncertainty and trying to figure out what a new normal is, now and in the future, why is it important that we should be focusing on our immune system?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think some might say, well, that's obvious. We have this pandemic, so of course we want strong immune systems, but it's a bit more nuanced than that. So one of the things that is true about SARS-CoV-2, for example, the virus that causes COVID-19, is that people are more susceptible to developing the illness of COVID-19. And this is true for this virus, but other viruses as well, even common cold and flu, that kind of thing. People are more susceptible when they don't have a robust immune system. And specifically, the very first aspect of the immunity or the sentries, the cells that serve as the sentries of our immune system that are on the prowl looking for invaders, when those sentries aren't working very well, then the rest of our immune system, our immune army, basically can get taken unaware. And that's essentially what happens with viruses like SARS-CoV-2 for some people. Those sentries are literally kind of, I guess to carry on the war analogy, are sort of knocked senseless or are confused or are literally infected by the virus, and they don't do a good job of alerting the rest of the immune system. And when that happens, the virus can then sneak in and start to infect other cells. And then obviously we have the infection. Now, people we know that the biggest risk factor for developing viral infections is people who are older. And that makes sense because as we age, our immune system naturally declines in its robustness. So it leaves our elderly more susceptible. And with viral infections in particular, and especially this one that we're all dealing with the pandemic, once the virus takes hold, it causes symptoms by triggering inflammation. And inflammation happens acutely in all of us, and that's a good, healthy response to an injury. But when that inflammation happens in a strong, prolonged way, we can get quite sick, as we all know, for some people. And it turns out that people who have kind of what we call a smoldering level of inflammation or chronic inflammation are more susceptible to getting the sickness of COVID-19. So the second biggest risk factor, in fact, is obesity. And people who have extra weight carry fat that's inflamed and contributes to inflammation throughout the body and makes them much more likely to develop the illness of COVID-19. So all of this kind of goes back to the importance of really looking at our vulnerabilities in terms of our immune system and our inflammatory response, and doing everything we can to make them as robust as possible to prevent the infection and or prevent the illness or the symptoms associated with the infection.
Okay. And so you kind of mentioned a couple times you do that war analogy and stuff, and we've said it's uncertain. So it's safe to say that it's stressful times for a lot of people. So then that leads into my next question: is how is the immune system compromised during stressful times?
Yeah, this is such a catch-22, right? Because we're all kind of stressed out right now. for lots of reasons. We're socially more isolated. We are facing unsure economic times. We have loved ones that are vulnerable or sick. So there's a lot of extra stress. And that's unfortunate because when our body is stressed, we have high levels of stress hormones, things like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, these compounds which we normally get just fleeting glimpses of when we have a stressful thing that happens to us, like, somebody cuts us off in traffic, or we, feel like we're about to fall. Those hormones go up, and then the body has a way to bring them back down, to recalibrate. But when we're under chronic, repetitive stress, even if it's not crazy high stress, but just low, constant stress, it starts to creep those hormones up. And as those stress hormones go up, unfortunately, they suppress our immunity. So we actually are more vulnerable to infection when we have higher levels of stress, which makes stress management of critical importance as what really a foundational strategy for helping to improve our immunity and our defenses against getting sick.
Awesome. That's great. I think about, like, a bonus of this teleworking is I don't have to worry about people cutting me off in traffic.
Yeah, right.
So maybe that part of the stress is down a little bit. But again, reminder to those who are watching, make sure to tune into some of our other programs that we have going on. Mindful Mondays with Bob Cunningham, some great tips on how to reduce stress, and can go along with what Dr. Alschuler is saying here. So, we talked about, the immune system and maybe how it's compromised and why it's important to focus on it. So kind of looking more at some specifics with it, what would you say are your like 3 go-to foods to strengthen the immune system?
Just 3. Okay. I might have to go up to 5 if I speak fast enough. But so the first thing I would say is actually not a specific food, but a concept of eating. And that's what I call the rainbow diet. So every time you look down at your plate, you should see a rainbow of colors staring back at you. And what that means is that you're eating dark leafy greens, maybe some sweet potato, maybe some blueberries for dessert, tomatoes, all these different colors come from pigments in plant foods, which are called flavonoids. And flavonoids are one of the most important ways that we can eat things to strengthen our immunity and reduce inflammation. They do both those things. So a plant-forward, colorful diet is number 1, for sure. Now, along with that, kind of more specifically related to diet, there's a couple things that come to mind. One is green tea. Green tea, I think everybody, for the most part, understands green tea as a healthful beverage. But what some studies are showing, not human studies yet, but what we call preclinical studies, are showing that green tea specifically has components in it which directly inhibit the ability of viruses, including SARS-CoV-2, from binding to cells, and they also downregulate that excessive inflammatory response. So having good quality organic green tea on a daily basis, I think, is a really important food. Number 3, it's a toss-up, I think, between spices and mushrooms. So let me just address both those a little bit. So spices pack the most power per quantity of any food in the diet in terms of their anti-inflammatory capacity. And many spices actually, in addition to down-regulating, turning down the dial of our stress response and that inflammatory response to stress, they also improve our antiviral immunity. So things like turmeric, thyme, basil, oregano, garlic powder, all these things are really helpful for us. So don't skimp on the spices. And just as a little tip, if your spice has been in your cabinet for more than 6 months, it's probably not very vital anymore. So we really shouldn't keep spices for more than about 6 months for them to be medicinal. And then my other comment was cooked mushrooms. Mushrooms should always be cooked when they're eaten, but mushrooms are really a powerful way to support that initial sensory-driven response to viral infections. So any kind of cooked mushroom is going to have that, that capacity, and they're so delicious anyway, so you can mix them into whatever else you're eating on that colorful plate, and you really can make each meal a very strong way to support immunity and turn down that inflammatory response.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, at least I feel good because I'm kind of on the right tracks a little bit.
Good.
I love the turmeric stuff, and my 5-year-old's always asking me, why is your quinoa so yellow? Maybe I get a little bit overzealous with it, but great tips there. So, you know, kind of going on that then, maybe, you know, we know that a lot of things are due to lifestyle then. So would you say, again, 3, maybe 4 of your go-to lifestyle choices that someone can do to strengthen their immune system?
You know, I think it really cannot be overemphasized enough how important stress management is. And although a daily meditation program is beautiful and a wonderful thing, it doesn't have to be that much of a commitment. Even just taking Pema Chodron, who's a wonderful Buddhist monk, talks about, or nun, I guess she would call herself, talks about a practice called gap breathing, where in little gaps between our daily activities, she just takes a pause, she'll close her eyes, and she just takes 3 mindful breaths, meaning she's just aware of her in-breath and aware of her out-breath. And, you know, it's ideal if you can kind of slow those down a little bit. And just inserting that gap breathing into we have so many of these little gaps, and that takes maybe 40 seconds to do. And that can totally reset our stress response system. So again, by resetting our stress response system, we improve our immunity and downturn our inflammation. The other one I'd mentioned that I don't know if it gets enough enough discussion is laughter. There's some really interesting studies that show that people who get a good, strong belly laugh elevate their natural killer cells, which are one of the key cells that form some of those sentries of the immune system. They elevate the function of those natural killer cells dramatically for up to 4 hours after that big belly laugh. So, you know, although it can be hard to find things to laugh about, even just finding a funny clip and letting yourself really laugh in response to that is tremendously helpful. Even just forcing yourself to laugh without anything of, you know, funny in front of you, the physiological response of laughter will create those same effects. So that's a favorite strategy of mine. And I think you've had I think an expert, Dr. Ruben Nyman, talking about sleep, and sleep is so critical. There's lots of research that shows that most adults need at least 7, preferably 8 hours of sleep on a regular basis in order to rejuvenate and restore our daily immunity. And without that sufficient sleep, we go into our day with deficient immune systems, making ourselves more vulnerable, obviously, to infection. We also know that when we're sleep deprived, we tend to have we're more easily stressed, and it doesn't take as much to tip us into that stress situation. So it also has that deleterious effect. So just really prioritizing good quality and quantity of sleep, I think, is another favorite strategy of mine. And I guess my third one would be activity and not being sedentary. When we have prolonged periods of sitting, and this is really important as we're all getting into the video thing, if we sit for more than 90 minutes at a time, we start to see increased markers of inflammation in our body. So it's really important, in addition to regular exercise, to get up throughout the day, at least as often as every 90 minutes, ideally even more frequently than that, and just take a minute to do some deep knee bends, some jumping jacks, walk down the hall, just move your body. We're meant to move, and if we sit in a still position for too long, it really takes a toll on our health.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and again, those who are watching, you know, please, you know, hop onto our website, lifework@arizona.edu, to hop on, see some of these things that Dr. Alschuler was talking about. Yeah, we talked to Dr. Nyman about some sleep, and Rob Harris and Jim Crumpus about movement and activity, especially sitting a lot right now. So a lot of great tips here. So, you know, tying up here, and I ask all of my guests on here as we you know, tie up here in this last minute that we have. So what is something right now that you're doing to currently better your health?
Well, I think I'm doing several things. One is I'm really focusing on trying to get at least 7.5 hours of sleep every night. That's something that I haven't always been as conscientious about, but I'm definitely prioritizing that. And, you know, I have a dog, so we get up and walk our dog very early in the morning. So that means an early bedtime for me, but that's okay. Speaking of walking the dog, I think getting out into the outdoors in the morning is really a helpful thing. There's some really important research about how letting our eyes get exposed to natural daylight within ideally a half an hour of waking up is a very powerful stimulus to resetting our circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythm is this pattern of cellular activity that's tied to the cycle of light and dark. And the more tied or connected we are to the natural cycle of light and dark, the better our bodies function, especially our immune system. So it's actually a really important thing, not only to get sleep, but then to expose yourself to some natural light first thing in the morning. So I'm doing that. And then I think I would say third thing is kind of in addition to the laughter and the breathing exercises and those daily meditations, for me, it's been really important to reset my stress response system by taking time on the weekends to not work and really letting myself rejuvenate and participate in joyful activities that I can enjoy with my loved ones and that are, just not that I don't love my work. I do love my work, but it's important to kind of take a break. And I think that, especially in this time of social isolation and uncertainty, it's important to get these kind of anchors in our week where we can look forward to having some downtime, some time of relaxation, joy, exuberance, and then we can, re-engage in our lives from there.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again, Dr. Alschuler, for coming on and sharing all these amazing tips with us. And thank all of you for taking your time again out of your busy morning. Please continue to stay in touch with what we do, follow what we do, and I hope everyone has a happy and well Wednesday. Be well, everybody.
Thanks, Chad.